Commander Jake Morrison stood at the big window of the space station. He looked out at Earth, a small blue ball spinning far away in the dark. The space station was called Horizon's Edge. It was one of many human stations scattered across the galaxy. For 300 years, humans had been traveling to other worlds. They built homes on distant planets and created trade routes between the stars. But they were never the bosses. The Galactic Council ruled everything. The Council was made up of alien races who had been in space much longer than humans. The aliens let humans join their group, but they treated humans like children. Humans were good workers and could adapt to almost anything, but the aliens never fully trusted them. They kept secrets from humanity and made all the important decisions. Dr. Lisa Parker walked quickly toward Jake. She was shaking and held a small computer in her hands. Lisa studied old alien ruins for a living. She had just made a discovery that scared her more than anything she had ever found. "Jake, you need to see this right now," she whispered. Her voice was so quiet he could barely hear her. The old race called the predecessors didn't just disappear like everyone thinks. They left something behind. Something they built just to protect Earth. Lisa showed Jake her computer screen. Strange symbols covered the display. They looked like writing, but not from any language humans knew. The symbols glowed with a soft light that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. "I found these in the ruins on planet Kepler 7, Lisa explained. "But Jake, the energy readings are impossible. These symbols are still active after thousands of years. They're sending signals somewhere." Jake took the computer and studied the strange writing. He had seen predecessor ruins before, but they were always dead and empty. These symbols were different. They felt alive somehow. Far away on the other side of the galaxy, Ambassador Helen Carter sat in a huge meeting room. She was the human representative to the Galactic Council. The room was enormous, with seats for representatives from 47 different alien species. Helen had attended hundreds of these meetings before. Usually the aliens talked about trade routes, mining rights, and small disputes between planets. But today was different. The aliens were scared. Council leader Vexithari stood at the center of the room. He was tall and looked like a giant insect with multiple eyes that reflected light like mirrors. His voice made clicking sounds when he spoke, which was normal for his species. But today his clicking sounded nervous. "Fellow council members," he began, "we have detected strange energy signals coming from the Sol system. The old warnings that we have ignored for so long may be coming true." Helen felt cold fear run through her body. She had always suspected the aliens knew more about Earth than they told humans. This was the first time she had heard about any old warnings. "What warnings?" Helen asked, standing up from her seat. The room became completely silent. Hundreds of alien eyes turned to look at her. Vexthari's insect face showed what might have been surprise. "Ambassador Carter," he said slowly, "there are things about your homeworld that your species was never meant to know." Meanwhile, deep under Earth's Pacific Ocean, Dr. Ryan Brooks was exploring in his small submarine. Ryan studied ocean life, but today his instruments had detected something that should not exist. His sonar showed a massive structure buried under miles of rock and mud on the ocean floor. The structure was huge, bigger than any city humans had ever built. It was perfectly geometric, with straight lines and perfect angles that could only be artificial. Ryan had been exploring the oceans for 20 years, but he had never seen anything like this. As his submarine's lights shone on parts of the buried structure, Ryan saw the same strange symbols that Lisa had found on Kepler 7. But these symbols were different somehow. They were more complex, like they were instructions or warnings written in a language that was both ancient and incredibly advanced. "This is impossible," Ryan said to himself as he recorded everything with his cameras. "How long has this been down here, and why is it so perfectly preserved?" His submarine's computer began beeping with alarms. The structure was giving off energy readings that made no sense. Whatever was buried under the ocean was not dead. It was sleeping, and something was starting to wake it up. Back on the space station, Jake received an urgent message on his secure communication system. Admiral Susan Blake appeared on his screen. She was an old woman with gray hair and tired eyes, but her voice was strong and commanding. "Commander Morrison, "You need to return to Earth immediately," she said. "We've discovered something that changes everything we thought we knew about our planet. Bring Dr. Parker with you. Her knowledge of predecessor technology might be the only thing that can help us understand what we're dealing with." Jake looked at Lisa, who was still staring at her computer screen. The symbols were glowing brighter now, and they seemed to be responding to something. "Admiral, what exactly have you found?" Jake asked. "Something that's been waiting under our feet for thousands of years," Blake replied. "And Jake, whatever it is, it's starting to wake up. The aliens are terrified, and I'm beginning to understand why." The transmission ended, leaving Jake and Lisa alone with their fears and questions. Outside the window, Earth looked the same as always, small and peaceful, but both of them knew that nothing would ever be the same again. As their ship prepared to leave for Earth, neither Jake nor Lisa noticed the subtle changes happening throughout the galaxy. On distant worlds, ancient ruins that had been dark for millennia were beginning to glow with the same soft light as the symbols on Lisa's computer. The Guardian was stirring, and the galaxy was about to discover why the predecessors had hidden so many secrets about the small blue planet called Earth. When the Guardian's systems turned on completely, its power reached far beyond Earth. Ancient technology hidden on dozens of worlds throughout the galaxy began responding to its call. The network that the predecessors had built was enormous, connecting planets across thousands of light years. On the council capital world of Zentari Prime, panic spread through the government buildings like wildfire. Ambassador Helen Carter found herself locked in a room, though the aliens claimed they were protecting her for her own safety. Through her window, she could see massive alien warships gathering in space above the planet. The alien ships had their weapons ready, pointing at empty space as if they expected an attack at any moment. But Helen realized they weren't preparing to fight an enemy they could see. They were afraid of something much more powerful. Council leader Vexithari came to visit her personally. His usual calm confidence was gone, replaced by barely controlled fear. His insect eyes reflected the lights of the warships outside. "Ambassador Carter, you must understand," he said. "Your species has awakened something that was meant to stay asleep forever. The Guardian doesn't just protect Earth, it judges entire civilizations to decide if they deserve to exist." Helen stood up and faced him, even though she was his prisoner. "Then maybe you should have trusted us with the truth instead of treating us like children for 300 years. "Trust?" Vexithari made a sound that might have been bitter laughter. "Do you know what happened to the last species the Guardian judged completely? They became the predecessors themselves. And do you know what happened to them after that? They disappeared from physical reality entirely, leaving behind only ruins and warnings. Meanwhile, back on Earth in the underwater facility, the work never stopped. Dr. Lisa Parker worked around the clock with teams of language experts and scientists, trying to understand the massive amounts of information flowing from the Guardian's central pillar. Commander Jake Morrison coordinated with surface teams as similar installations revealed themselves all over the globe. In the Sahara Desert, an entire complex rose from beneath centuries of sand. Another installation pushed up through the ice in Antarctica. The pattern was becoming clear. The predecessors had built a worldwide network, and Earth had been their greatest creation. Dr. Ryan Brooks watched the Guardian's effects on Earth's natural systems. The planet's magnetic field was becoming stronger and more stable in ways that human science couldn't explain. Ocean currents were changing their paths to become more efficient. Even the air itself was slowly changing its mixture of gases. "It's like the planet is healing itself," he reported to Admiral Blake during their daily meeting. "But that's not the strangest part. We're detecting similar changes on human colonies throughout the galaxy. It's as if the Guardian is connected to every place humans have ever lived." Admiral Blake looked at a map showing human colonies scattered across dozens of star systems. Red warning lights were appearing at each location. "Our colony ships used predecessor artifacts in their construction, didn't they? It was standard policy for deep space travel and navigation." The terrible realization hit everyone at the same time. Humanity hadn't just found predecessor technology and learned to copy. They had been guided to it, led to build it into their most important systems. The Guardian hadn't just been watching Earth. It had been guiding humanity's spread across the galaxy from the very beginning. On the space station Horizon's Edge, now orbiting Earth, Captain Sarah Kim was helping evacuate human personnel from alien space. Reports were coming in of increasing hostility from alien governments. Several human diplomatic missions had simply disappeared without explanation. But the most disturbing news came from the frontier colonies. Human ships trying to evacuate settlements were being stopped by massive energy barriers that appeared whenever they approached. The Guardian wasn't just testing humanity. It was making sure they couldn't run away from whatever was coming. In the depths of the Pacific facility, Lisa made a breakthrough in her translation work. The Guardian's main programming included detailed records of other species it had evaluated. In the past, the results were terrifying. Jake, I've found information about 12 different civilizations that the Guardian has tested over the past 1,000,000 years, she said. Her face was pale in the blue light of the ancient machinery. Only 3 of them passed the test. Of those 3, 2 chose to transcend physical existence and disappeared completely. The third chose to remain in the physical universe but was given tremendous power over how the galaxy developed. She paused, looking at the data with growing horror. The 9 civilizations that failed the test were completely eliminated, not just their governments or their armies, but every trace that they had ever existed. The Guardian doesn't just judge species. When it finds them unworthy, it erases them from the universe entirely. As if the ancient machine had heard her words, the pillar's light changed from blue to amber, and a new sound filled the chamber. It was deeper and more ominous than before. Across the galaxy, every alien civilization detected the change immediately. The preliminary evaluation phase was over. The real test was about to begin. In the Galactic Council chambers, the archive keeper addressed the panicked assembly. The Guardian has completed its initial assessment of humanity. Now it will begin the trials that will determine their fate. What kind of trials? Asked a representative from the Aquatic Federation. The Guardian tests 3 things, the archive keeper replied. First, it tests unity. Can the species work together when facing extinction? Second, it tests wisdom. Can they handle great power without destroying themselves and others? Third, it tests growth. Can they become something greater than they were, or are they limited by their nature? Ambassador Helen felt a chill of fear. How long do these tests usually take? The shortest evaluation in recorded history took 15 years, the archive keeper answered. The longest took over 2 centuries. And remember, most species fail. On Earth, the first signs of the testing phase began to appear. Strange energy, patterns started forming in space around human colonies. Ancient predecessor installations that had been dormant for millennia suddenly became active, creating scenarios that seemed designed to push humanity to its limits. Dr. Lisa Parker felt the Guardian's vast intelligence focusing its attention on humanity. The alien mind that touched hers was beyond anything she could have imagined, older than human civilization, and more powerful than human technology. The first trial is beginning, she told the assembled team. Her voice carried strange harmonics, as if the Guardian itself was speaking through her. Humanity will be tested to see if they can act as one species when survival depends on it. Commander Jake Morrison studied the reports coming in from across human space. That's going to be difficult. Our colonies have developed very different cultures and governments. Some of them barely consider themselves part of the same species anymore. The nature of the test became clear within hours. A massive asteroid appeared on a collision course with New Geneva, one of humanity's most important industrial colonies. The asteroid was clearly artificial and was being guided by predecessor technology. The timeline for impact was exactly 6 months, but there was a way to stop it. Hidden installations on 12 different human worlds contained pieces of a planetary defense system. To save New Geneva, representatives from all 12 colonies would need to work together perfectly, combining their pieces and coordinating their efforts despite their differences. The challenge seemed impossible. The 12 colonies had different governments, different cultures, and different priorities. Some had been feuding with each other for decades. Now they would have to trust each other completely, or watch millions of people die. The Guardians, First trial had begun, and humanity's future hung in the balance. The asteroid heading toward New Geneva was bigger than a mountain and moving faster than any natural object could travel. Every scientist who studied it agreed that it would completely destroy the colony and kill everyone living there. The energy readings showed it was protected by the same type of force field that surrounded predecessor ruins, making it impossible to destroy with normal weapons. Captain Sarah Kim watched from her command ship as the 12 human colonies tried to respond to the crisis. The initial reaction was exactly what everyone feared it would be. The colonies started arguing with each other instead of working together. New Manchester, an industrial world that produced most of the galaxy's advanced electronics, refused to share their piece of the defense system unless they received guarantees about future trade agreements. The agricultural colony of Haven, whose people believed in peace above all else, demanded promises that their pacifist principles would be respected in any joint military operation. The mining world of Red Rock wanted compensation for the resources they would need to contribute. The research colony of Newton's Gate insisted that any defense system should be thoroughly tested before being used, even though there wasn't time for proper testing. This is exactly what the Guardian expected, Dr. Lisa Parker said as she watched the reports from the Pacific facility. The ancient alien intelligence that had touched her mind was still there, observing everything. It's testing whether we can overcome our differences when survival is at stake. Commander Jake Morrison felt frustrated as he read message after message from colony leaders who seemed more interested in protecting their own interests than saving lives. At this rate, New Geneva is doomed. We have 6 months to coordinate 12 different governments, and they're spending their time making demands instead of working together. But then something remarkable began to happen. While the politicians and leaders argued, ordinary people started taking action on their own. A maintenance worker on New Manchester sent technical specifications to her counterpart on Haven, ignoring the trade embargo their governments had imposed on each other. Students at Newton's Gate began collaborating with miners on Red Rock, sharing research data that could help integrate the defense system components. Farmers on Haven started growing extra food to send to the other colonies, knowing that everyone would need to work around the clock to meet the deadline. Dr. Ryan Brooks, monitoring the situation from Earth, watched in amazement as a grassroots network of cooperation began to form. It's incredible. Millions of people are working together without any central coordination. They're bypassing their own governments to solve this problem. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Alex Chen, a 16-year-old programmer on the mining world of Kepler Station, figured out how to connect all 12 pieces of the defense system using standard communication protocols that every colony already had. Alex had been working on the problem for weeks, staying up all night and surviving on caffeinated drinks and determination. When he finally cracked the code, he didn't report it to his government first. Instead, he posted his solution on the public network where anyone could access it. Within hours, thousands of volunteers across human space had downloaded Alex's program, improved it, and begun implementing it. Engineers, technicians, and programmers who had never met each other worked together to refine the solution and prepare it for use. The asteroid was successfully stopped with 3 days to spare. The 12 colony defense systems activated simultaneously, creating a barrier of energy that deflected the massive object harmlessly into empty space. The celebration that followed could be heard across human space. But the Guardian's evaluation was just beginning. As humans celebrated their first victory, new scenarios began appearing throughout their territory. In the Pacific facility, Lisa felt the Guardian's attention shift to the second phase of testing. The ancient intelligence seemed surprised by humanity's performance, but the test was becoming more difficult. "What's the next trial?" Jake asked, seeing the change in her expression. Lisa's voice carried the harmonics of the alien mind she was connected to. "Wisdom," she said. "Humanity must prove they can handle great power responsibly, that they understand the consequences of their choices." Alarms began sounding throughout the facility. Admiral Blake's voice echoed through the corridors. "All personnel to emergency stations. We're detecting massive energy buildups at Guardian installations across the galaxy. The second trial is beginning." The nature of the second test became clear within hours. Ancient predecessor weapon systems, hidden throughout human space for thousands of years, suddenly revealed themselves and came online. Each weapon was capable of destroying entire star systems, and their activation codes were freely offered to any human who requested them. The temptation was immediate and overwhelming. For centuries, humanity had been treated as the weak junior partner in galactic civilization. The aliens constantly reminded humans that their technology was inferior and their influence was limited. Now, suddenly, humans possessed weapons that could reshape the galaxy according to their will. Some colony leaders immediately began making plans to use the weapons. "Why should we continue to accept second-class status?" asked the governor of Titan Base. "We could demand equality, or we could take it by force." But Dr. Lisa Parker, still connected to the Guardian's vast intelligence, understood the true nature of the test. "It's not about whether we use the weapons," she explained to the emergency council meeting. "It's about how we handle having that power. The Guardian is watching every decision, every conversation, every moment when someone considers taking what they want by force." The test became even more challenging when the hegemony of Krix, a militant alien empire, decided to exploit what they saw as humanity's moment of vulnerability. Their war fleets moved against 3 human colonies simultaneously, expecting that humans would be too distracted by their Guardian trials to mount an effective defense. The Krix had always been hostile to human expansion. They believed that humans were taking up space that should belong to older, more established species. Now they saw an opportunity to eliminate the human threat once and for all. Commander Jake Morrison, now coordinating Earth's response, watched as human colony commanders across the galaxy faced an impossible choice. They could use their newly acquired predecessor weapons to destroy the Krix fleets instantly, or they could try to find another way to defend themselves. The weapons would have made defense trivial. A single activation could eliminate the entire Krix hegemony in minutes, leaving nothing but empty space where their worlds used to be. But humanity's response surprised everyone, including the attacking aliens. Instead of using the overwhelming force available to them, human defenders used everything they had learned during their centuries of expansion. Ships that couldn't match Krix firepower used superior tactics and unconventional strategies. Colonies that couldn't stand against direct assault evacuated their populations using improvised transport networks made from civilian vessels. Captain Sarah Kim led the defense of the New Geneva system in what became known as the Battle of the Impossible Odds. Vastly outnumbered by Krix warships, she used a combination of asteroid mining equipment, cargo containers, and civilian transport ships to create a defensive formation that confused and delayed the attackers until reinforcements could arrive. The most remarkable moment came when the Krix fleet found itself trapped in the New Geneva system by Sarah's tactical maneuver. The colony commander had access to a predecessor weapon that could have destroyed every enemy ship instantly. Instead, he opened communication channels and offered the Krix fleet safe passage out of the system in exchange for a ceasefire. The Krix commander, expecting to be vaporized, was so surprised by the offer that he accepted immediately. For the first time in their species' history, the Krix had encountered an enemy that chose mercy over vengeance. Dr. Ryan Brooks, monitoring the Guardian's reactions from Earth, reported a fundamental change in the alien intelligence's assessment.
"Something's different. The Guardian's evaluation protocols are changing in real time. I think humanity's response is unlike anything it has ever seen before."
As the second trial concluded successfully, the Guardian prepared for the final phase of its evaluation. But this time, Lisa sensed something different in the ancient mind that touched hers. The Guardian was no longer just testing humanity. It was learning from them. The trip from the space station to Earth took 2 weeks. During the journey, Lisa worked day and night trying to understand the strange symbols she had found. She barely slept or ate. The ancient writing was like a puzzle with thousands of pieces, but slowly she began to see patterns. Some words appeared over and over again. Words like guardian, protect, and awaken showed up in different combinations. There were also numbers and formulas that described enormous amounts of energy, more power than humans had ever imagined possible. "Jake, look at this," Lisa said on the 10th day of their journey. She showed him her computer screen, which was covered with notes and translations. These aren't just random symbols, they're instructions. Someone left a manual for something incredibly powerful. Jake studied her work. He was a military commander, not a scientist, but even he could see that Lisa had discovered something important. Instructions for what? I think it's a weapon, Lisa said quietly. Or maybe a shield. Something designed to protect Earth from threats. But Jake, the power requirements are massive. Whatever this thing is, it would need the energy of a small star to operate. When they finally reached Earth, a military transport was waiting for them. They were taken immediately to a secret base that Jake had never heard of before. The base was built inside what used to be the deepest part of the ocean, the Mariana Trench. Dr. Ryan Brooks met them at the entrance. His hair was messy, and his clothes were wrinkled, like he hadn't left the base in days. His eyes were wide with excitement and fear. You have to see what we found, he said, leading them through tunnels carved from solid rock. We've been digging for a week, and yesterday we finally broke through into a chamber. The elevator took them down for what felt like forever. When the doors finally opened, Jake and Lisa stepped into a room so large they couldn't see the walls or ceiling. Crystal structures stretched up into the darkness above them, glowing with soft blue light that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. In the center of the enormous room stood a tall pillar made of metal that humans had never seen before. The pillar was covered with the same symbols that Lisa had been studying, but these were much more complex and detailed. The energy readings are incredible, Ryan explained as they walked toward the pillar. Whatever this thing is, it's been sleeping for thousands of years, but it's starting to wake up, and it's not alone. He led them to a computer station that showed a map of Earth. Red dots appeared all over the planet, marking locations where similar energy signatures had been detected. There are at least 12 of these installations around the world, Ryan continued. One under the Sahara Desert, another in Antarctica, more under the ocean floors. They're all connected somehow, like parts of a single massive machine. Lisa approached the central pillar carefully. Her small scanner was beeping frantically as it detected energy levels that should have been impossible. The symbols on the pillar were not just decorations. They were controls, buttons, and switches written in an ancient language. Jake, I think this is what the predecessors left behind, she said. A guardian system to protect Earth. But protect it from what? Above them, on the surface of Earth, Admiral Blake was dealing with increasingly urgent messages from space. Ambassador Carter had sent reports from the Galactic Council describing panic spreading through the alien government. Every alien civilization in the galaxy had detected the growing energy signature coming from Earth. The messages from Helen were frightening. The aliens were talking about ancient protocols and containment procedures. Some alien species were demanding that Earth be evacuated immediately. Others wanted to destroy the planet before whatever was awakening could fully activate. In the depths of space, things were happening that humans didn't understand. Ancient monitoring stations that had been silent for thousands of years were suddenly coming online. Their signals reached across the galaxy, touching distant worlds and activating technology that had been forgotten. On planets throughout the galaxy, archaeological sites that scientists had dismissed as dead ruins began to glow with the same blue light as Earth's installations. The predecessor network was waking up, and Earth was at its center. Council leader Vexus Thari called an emergency meeting of all alien governments. His insect face showed terror as he addressed the assembled representatives. The humans have activated, something that should have remained dormant forever, he declared. They don't understand what they're dealing with. The predecessors created this guardian system for a specific purpose, but they also created ways to keep it sleeping. Ambassador Helen stood up in the council chamber. Now she understood that humanity had been lied to for centuries. The aliens knew exactly what Earth really was, and they had deliberately kept humans ignorant. Council leader, maybe it's time you told us the truth about what you've been hiding from my people. The chamber became completely silent. Finally, an ancient being called the Archive Keeper spoke. Its voice sounded like distant thunder, and it was one of the oldest creatures in the galaxy. The truth, human, is that your species was never supposed to leave your planet. Earth was marked as a protected world, watched over by the Guardian, because the predecessors knew what humans could become. They saw your potential for both creation and destruction, and they prepared for both possibilities. Back in the underwater facility, the pillar's light was growing brighter every hour. Lisa had managed to translate part of the activation sequence, but what she discovered made her afraid. Jake, according to these symbols, the Guardian isn't just a protective system, she said. It's a test. It's designed to evaluate humanity, to decide whether we deserve our place in the galaxy, or whether we're too dangerous to be allowed to survive. The pillar suddenly flashed with brilliant light, and a deep sound filled the chamber. It was like music, but lower and more powerful than anything humans had ever heard. Ancient machinery that had been sleeping for thousands of years began to move and activate. Throughout Earth's crust, similar installations were waking up. The planet itself seemed to be coming alive, as if Earth had always been more than just a world. It was a machine, a test, and a judgment all in one. The Guardian was fully awakening now, and its attention was turning toward humanity. The test that would determine the future of the human race was about to begin. Above them, Admiral Blake received a final message from the Galactic Council. The aliens were withdrawing all their ships and personnel from human space. They would watch from a safe distance while humanity faced whatever judgment the Guardian had planned. The galaxy held its breath as Earth's ancient protector opened its eyes for the first time in 50,000 years. The Guardian's final trial came without any warning. Across all of human space, every ancient installation simultaneously offered humanity a choice that would determine their permanent place in the galaxy forever. Dr. Lisa Parker, who had become humanity's main connection to the Guardian, stood before the central pillar as it projected images directly into her mind. She saw 3 possible futures for the human race, each one completely different from the others. The first future was transcendence. Humanity would evolve beyond physical bodies just like the predecessors had done before them. They would gain unlimited power and knowledge, able to understand the deepest secrets of the universe. But they would also lose everything that made them human. Their bodies, their emotions, their connections to the physical world would all be left behind. The second future was stewardship. Humanity would be given authority over all galactic civilization. They would have the power to guide other species, maintain peace, and make decisions that affected trillions of lives. But they would also carry the enormous responsibility for the safety and development of countless civilizations. The third future was return. Humanity would be sent back to Earth, with all their memories of the galaxy erased. They would be allowed to develop naturally without any alien influence, free from both the burdens and the opportunities that came with galactic civilization. They would be safe, but they would also be alone. As Lisa explained these options to the human leadership gathered in the Pacific facility, debates erupted on every human world. Some people argued for transcendence, seeing it as the ultimate achievement and the natural next step in human evolution. "We could become like gods," said Dr. Robert Kim from the research colony Newton's Gate. "We could solve every problem, answer every question, understand everything there is to know about the universe." Others favored stewardship, believing that humanity could do better than the current Galactic Council had done. They pointed to humanity's recent success in working together and showing mercy to their enemies. "We've proven we can handle power responsibly," argued Governor Maria Santos from New Geneva. "Maybe it's time for a species that actually cares about cooperation to be in charge of galactic affairs." Still others wanted to return to the simplicity of Earth. They were tired of the constant challenges and dangers of galactic civilization. They wanted to go home and live peaceful lives without worrying about alien politics or ancient tests. "We were happier when we didn't know about all this," said Captain Tom Bradley from the frontier colony Harvest Moon. "Maybe ignorance really is bliss. Maybe we should just go back to being a single-planet species and forget the galaxy exists." But as the discussions continued for days and weeks, a fourth option began to emerge from the debates. Humans across the galaxy started proposing something the Guardian had never encountered in 50 million years of testing other species. They wanted to refuse all 3 choices and create their own path forward. Commander Jake Morrison expressed this idea best during the final council session that would determine humanity's answer. We've proven we can work together when it's necessary. We've shown we can handle great power without abusing it. We've demonstrated that we can defend ourselves without destroying our enemies. So why should we accept limitations on what we can become? Admiral Susan Blake nodded in agreement. The Guardian is offering us 3 choices, but they're all based on what other species have done in the past. Why can't we do something completely new? Dr. Lisa Parker felt the Guardian's vast intelligence wrestling with this unprecedented situation. The ancient mind that had touched hers for months was struggling to understand humanity's response. In 50 million years of evaluations, no species has ever rejected the offered choices, she said, her voice carrying overtones of the alien consciousness. To do so would mean moving forward without guidance, without protection, and without any guarantee of success. You would be completely on your own. That sounds like the most human thing possible, Admiral Blake replied with a slight smile. The Guardian's final evaluation period lasted for what felt like forever. The ancient consciousness, vast and alien beyond human comprehension, analyzed every aspect of humanity's nature and history. It reviewed their responses to the trials, their capacity for growth, their potential for both creation and destruction. Finally, after hours of tense waiting, Lisa announced the verdict. Her voice carried the authority of the cosmic intelligence she was connected to. Humanity is granted provisional independence. You will be allowed to develop without interference from the Guardian or any other cosmic authority. You will be free to make your own choices and follow your own path, but you will be watched carefully. If you prove worthy of the path you have chosen, the galaxy will benefit greatly from your presence. If you fail and become a threat to galactic civilization, you will face judgment again. As the Guardian's installations powered down around the galaxy, and the ancient alien intelligence returned to its long sleep, profound changes began happening throughout human space. Ambassador Helen Carter was released from her imprisonment on Centauri Prime. The Galactic Council, shaken by humanity's trial and the precedent it had set, agreed to negotiate a new treaty that would recognize humans as full equals rather than junior partners in galactic civilization. The alien species that had long dominated galactic politics found themselves forced to reconsider their assumptions about younger civilizations. If humans could face the Guardian's trials and choose their own destiny, what did that say about the potential of other species? But the most significant change was in humanity itself. The trials had forced the entire species to confront their own nature and make conscious choices about their future. They had proven to themselves and to the galaxy that they could be more than the sum of their individual desires and ambitions. Commander Jake Morrison stood once again on the observation deck of the space station Horizon's Edge, watching Earth turn slowly below him. The planet looked the same as it always had, a small blue marble in the vast darkness of space. But everything had changed. Humanity had awakened something ancient and incredibly powerful. They had faced judgment from an intelligence beyond their comprehension, and they had chosen to remain themselves rather than accept any easy answers about their destiny. The galaxy would never be the same, and humanity would never again be underestimated or treated as a lesser species. They had earned their place among the stars not through superior weapons or technology, but through their unique combination of cooperation, wisdom, and stubborn independence. In the depths of the Pacific Ocean, the ancient installations maintained their quiet watch, ready to awaken again if humanity's chosen path led them astray. But for now, the choice was entirely theirs to make. The Guardian had awakened, tested, and rendered its verdict. Humanity was free to become whatever they chose to be, with all the terrible and wonderful responsibility that such freedom entailed. As Jake watched Earth spinning peacefully below, he thought about the long journey ahead. Humanity had passed the ultimate test, but that was just the beginning. Now they had to prove they deserved the independence they had claimed. The stars waited, full of infinite possibilities and challenges. And humanity, for the first time in their history, was truly free to meet them on their own terms. The Guardian slept once more, but its message echoed across the galaxy. Some species were meant to forge their own destiny, regardless of the risks or the rewards that path might bring.